I have with me Anthony Dietrich from the podcast Left Turns and Loud Noises, available for listening on iTunes and Spotify. Anthony, thank you for joining me.
Dude, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. I didn't realize I'd be on video today, so obviously looking my Sunday best in my Florida attire, but I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm a casual channel. This is a casual show here. Now, what made you decide to start a
Beautiful.
podcast?
Well, to be quite honest, I've been watching racing since I was like 8 years old in 2002. And I never really had anyone to talk to about NASCAR. I live in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. I went to school at FSU, and I lived in Tampa for a year. And I never had any friends that really enjoyed talking about NASCAR, talking about racing in general. So I decided to make Left Turns and Loud Noises because I really enjoyed podcasts in general. I thought it was a good outlet for people to kind of get out what they wanted to do. I had some people reach out to me and say, why don't you do YouTube? Why don't you do something like that? I didn't really like YouTube that much. First of all, I'm not a facey guy. I'm a voice guy. So I prefer having the audio side of things. It's a little easier to edit. So I literally went on Reddit and I posted, hey, I'm trying to start a podcast. I'm looking for co-hosts. If you want to audition, hit me up. And I had like 5 people reach out to me, and I did a couple auditions, and lo and behold, sometime in February 2019, I started Left Turns and Loud Noises with Kevin Costello and my good friend R.I.P. Nolan.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I first started my YouTube channel back in early 2015. It was basically a case of like I'd been interested in racing for a long time, particularly IndyCar and NASCAR. And I already had the Google account set up because like a couple of years earlier I used it for some projects I was doing like through Drive, and I found out I could make YouTube videos, so I decided to start doing that.
It's a good approach, honestly. If you we tried to figure out with Google and Skype how to do it properly and record. We ended up just going with Discord to record the podcast, which I highly recommend anyone who wants to get into the podcasting game to look into using Discord and the Craig bot. It is just fantastic. If I had a better computer, I'd get episodes out in 30 minutes, but it takes me a couple of hours.
Yeah. Now, last week, NASCAR held their all-star race at Bristol, only the second time in 35 years where it was held at a track besides Charlotte. Should the all-star race be at a different track each year?
Yeah, I think it should be on a rotating circle of tracks. I definitely, over the past few years, have become less interested in the all-star race per se. It's not really my favorite weekend of the year. It's I pretty much watch the Open and I kind of tune off a little bit for the actual race itself. With Bristol this year, while it wasn't the most exciting race, it was definitely nice to see a change of things. I mean, it was awesome seeing fans in the circumstances we had, but we definitely need a rotating triangle or circle of tracks, like a short track, an intermediate, well, I guess Charlotte, and something else in between. Obviously, I think Vegas is a great location for an all-star race. Vegas obviously has a huge populace, and it's a great track, produces great racing. I think that could be one that we could see in the future. I've seen people say Martinsville at night, which I think is another great idea. If you wanted to continue the underglow idea of short track racing, I would like to see full car with underglow. But definitely, I would like to see a difference in the racing, not just Charlotte every single year, because I think we mentioned this today. I don't want to see a full weekend of all-star festivities. I get it. It's a big thing, but like the Wednesday night race was perfect. It's like it didn't take up the whole weekend. We got it. We had a great time with it. Obviously, for fans, Sunday is better, but a Wednesday night race is always a good time. I haven't really been complaining about the Wednesday night races we've had this year.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought it worked out pretty well. Maybe my only thing, I've been saying that the main race could have been a tad longer.
No, that's the thing with Bristol. That's the thing with Bristol. It takes like 150 laps to get the high side going. So the PJ1 was kind of really making it difficult.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that I might say is that I think it would be better for the event to have it at a different track each year. And I think this year also showed that logistically it can work. It can work by having the race be at one track during the week, and then you can be in a completely different part of the country, namely from Bristol to Texas, in the span of basically 4 days. I mean, they
Oh,
just
yeah.
start arriving on Saturday before the race in this case.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a big thing, obviously if you can move these cars quickly, you got the whole base out of Charlotte. There's like 15, there's like 10 tracks in that area that you can easily go to. I mean, there's options for Atlanta, Martinsville, Richmond. You could even go down to Daytona. I mean, if we wanted to have an all-star race at Talladega, we could even do that if we wanted to get nutty. But I mean, there are a lot of options outside of the Charlotte area that they can get to pretty quickly. So logistically, it also works to rotate it. But obviously, this is a weird year. Yeah.
Recently, there have been discussions about NASCAR banning political sponsorships. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for me, if you're going to just okay. It's a fine line you got to walk with the political landscape in America right now. It's very either you're right or you're wrong, and no one really wants to see it any other way. And for me, NASCAR has always had political sponsorships in election years. This has been a constant thing. We don't really see it on a much polarizing level because it's never really gotten to this point like it is now in America. I think it's mostly just tensions are high based on just years of not being heard, and also just the fact that we've been locked in our houses essentially for 4 months. It's creating a lot more tension. The sponsorships in NASCAR, some of them, for me, I definitely think that all teams need sponsorship, especially whatever you can get, you can get. I've always had a problem with NASCAR banning certain kinds of sponsorship. Recently with their CBD that they've been saying are not allowed, sponsorship from them are not allowed in cars. I think that's ridiculous. I had a problem with the when Monster Energy came on and other forms of energy drinks could not be on NASCAR because that's a huge market that completely got erased and now are having a hard time getting back. Cell phone companies, when Sprint was on, were banned essentially. I thought that was ridiculous. I don't like the idea of banning any types of sponsorships, but I can see why political sponsorships would be, just because it creates more controversy. But in my eyes, controversy creates more viewers, and NASCAR needs more viewers. So I don't want to see them ban it. I loved what Bubba did with his Black Lives Matter car. That was an awesome gesture, and honestly, it was great to see the support that he got from it. And I appreciate Corey LaJoie's Trump car. Like, I'm not going to go on and say that I'm the biggest Trump guy in the world, but I will say that, it's a sponsorship. He's getting money. It's a car that, is running in the top 20 last week. So, he definitely, LaJoie's a talented driver and deserves whatever sponsorship he can get. So, there's obviously more controversial ones. I won't, say that I'm the biggest fan in the world of Kyle Weatherman's car, but, I'll say that sponsorship and he deserves it. So, I don't want to see NASCAR banning sponsorship. The only thing that should be banned are tobacco products, and that's just because of the danger involved in that from younger viewers getting a negative idea or positive idea, I guess, from tobacco. So definitely would like to, see less sponsorships banned. I'm getting the long answers. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's no issue. It's no issue. About the only thing I might say, though, is realistically, I don't have an issue with political sponsorships, even if I don't necessarily agree with it.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd rather see, I suppose, something I disagree with than if it means, well, maybe I might see something I do agree with, and also the fact that regardless of the affiliation, it can be beneficial to these teams. And I think at a certain point, kind of like you said, or sort of like what you said, that basically if basically, if you want to start banning certain sponsorships based on supposed morality or whatever, then there's a whole lot of other things you really need to get into, and it's also whose morality.
It's a very slippery slope.
I mean, you could honestly say, you brought up energy drinks. I mean, look, I admit I drink energy drinks. I realize you shouldn't do it every day, and I don't. But I mean, you could make an argument that they aren't good for you, and maybe they shouldn't sponsor cars. I don't think so, or I think they should be allowed to. But I mean, some people might say that, or
I mean, we have beer on NASCARs, and you shouldn't be drinking that every single day. I mean, that's legitimate alcoholism.
Well,
so exactly. I find that very ironic.
I mean, another thing, I mean, I know that was kind of the thing back in the 1990s, like Budweiser, they used to do commercials at the time. At the time, they sponsored Scott Pruitt and the True Sports team and IndyCar, and basically, he'd do commercials for Budweiser, where he basically would emphasize don't drink and drive, and maybe other people who they sponsored at the time, like probably in that time frame, they were still sponsoring. That would have been still Jeff Bodine over at Junior Johnson's team in NASCAR.
Yeah, wow, blast from the past.
I don't know if he did any of those types of commercials. I haven't really seen either way, but I mean, I know it's not without precedent for NASCAR to block a certain sponsorship. I mean, what was the deal last year with J.J. Yale? He was supposed to be sponsored by the band Slayer.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
I think it was the Bristol race, the Bristol night race.
I mean, that was I don't understand. Sometimes NASCAR just has like this very inconsistently consistent way of blocking sponsorship that makes absolutely no sense. But I mean that's them. They want to represent what they want to represent on the cars. I mean, I'm not a huge Slayer fan, but I can totally see, I guess, why they might have that idea, but it makes no sense because I mean Slayer slaps. So I don't know. That's weird. That's just NASCAR, though. You get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's not the end of the world for me to see some of these sponsorships. I mean, maybe I'd rather not see them, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Now, moving on here. If not for being disqualified in the secondary series race, Kyle Busch would have swept the lower series races at Texas this past weekend. Do you think Cup Series drivers should be allowed to compete in lower series?
Yeah, absolutely they should. But, I mean, after a while, you got to think to yourself, like, if you're Kyle Busch, like, at what point am I wiping the field at this point? Like, I pretty much, like, Kyle's has 97 wins in Xfinity. And I know he claims at 100 wins he's done, but I don't believe that. Like, I honestly think that for younger guys in the sport, like when Chase Elliott would come down to Xfinity, or Austin Dillon, or some guys that just don't have the proper Cup experience, I'd like to see those drivers get more opportunities in Xfinity series than Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, when Carl Edwards was racing. It was like, it almost makes it feel like the racing is not as genuine, because there's basically a bunch of guys fighting for a championship with a ringer in there, and it's not really as fun. But I definitely would like to see guys like Corey LaJoie, like I mentioned. Trying to think here. Obviously, like, the rookies like Christopher Bell and Cole Custer, they've pretty much made their name in Xfinity. But a guy like John Hunter Nemechek, I'd like to see get more opportunities, because obviously he's not in a great car. When Matt Benedetto would come down, I would look forward to those races. Guys who don't have the opportunity to really win in Cup Series, I'd like to see them get that opportunity in Xfinity, because, I mean, it's a better chance. You have a smaller field of competitive drivers, and you really can make a mark. And it's obviously not very easy. I mean, look at Ross Chastain. He still hasn't won a race this year. So, I'm not trying to say that Chastain's a slouch. I think it really speaks more to how good Kyle Busch and JGR are. I mean, that was their fourth car, their R&D car, and basically it got caught for cheating. That just basically means they were trying to push the envelope to see how good they can be, how much they can really trot that line of cheating, non-cheating, and they definitely proved that they crossed the line. But I guarantee you, you're going to see Harrison Burton, Brandon Jones, and Riley Herbst absolutely skyrocket now after that race. And, you know, I think that's the benefit that comes from having a guy like Kyle Busch in the JGR car. Because right now, when you got 3 drivers fighting for a championship, especially when one of them looks like they could be a top-notch competitor in the championship for come Phoenix this year, a race like that at Texas where you see where the car can definitely, you know, be legal, not legal, that'll help them come down the line in the playoffs, and especially with Texas being one of the last races before Phoenix. So don't be surprised if you see the rest of JGR start really going up.
Yeah, I mean, I know some teams probably use their part-time cars, especially in the lower series, as essentially research and development type cars, really seeing how much they can push the envelope. It kind of reminds me of what college racing did last year. You remember how, like, I know they would have generally it was the 10 car with AJ Allmendinger in some races. Like, I know finished 3rd at Daytona, or at least he was going to, gets disqualified, finished 2nd at Watkins Glen, got disqualified. But then fast forward to this year, and that team has really taken us a step up.
For sure. Yeah,
And,
I mean, go ahead.
No, go. You can say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, Colleague even won last year at the Roval. They won in Atlanta with AJ Allmendinger. I mean, definitely what they were able to see was not legal. They were able to find that fine line. And now, I mean, Colleague's got a great team going on. I wish AJ was full-time, to be honest. And I'm sure if Colleague does keep 2 cars next year and Chastain does move up to Cup, which I think probably might happen, you know, then you got like a full-time driver in AJ who obviously knows how to win. So I'm definitely looking forward to, you know, again, that's just the idea of having experienced drivers in your car that may or may not be legal. I mean, AJ's got over a decade of experience. Kyle Busch has got 200 plus wins in all series to get you experience. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski coming down to Penske. Look how much that's helped Cindric this year. It's definitely, you know, I see it as an advantage. I don't want to see the Cup guys out of Xfinity, even if I complain about it on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I think the experience they bring, the competitiveness is can only be beneficial to the people in the secondary series. I mean, just the only thing I might say is and this is, I think, is remedied by the fact that they can't actively run for the championship. That they take away from cars from people trying to make a name for themselves. But as I said, that's really not too much of an issue. An issue now.
Yeah, no, I get that. And we still see guys getting opportunities. You know, obviously, I think back to Kyle Benjamin years ago in the 18 car. You know, I really wish that he got more of an opportunity. You've seen Riley Herbst, Christian Eckes. Oh gosh, it's gonna bother me what his name is now. He was racing the 46 last year for KBM in the truck series. He was really solid. No, it was not Eckes. There's another one. This happens all the time. I have a brain fart. But basically, guys like that to get seat time. I mean, we saw it with Ryan Freese. Ryan Freese now has a Cup ride because of that. So, you know, it definitely gives drivers opportunities, too, to come on in. It's not just always the Kyle Busch show. And Kyle Busch is a huge factor, though, for a lot of these guys in their careers, getting these starts, getting these opportunities, and having cars that are good enough to compete for wins in one-off races because Kyle Busch comes in and tells these guys, you know, what they need to do. I mean, Danny Stockman's his crew chief, and Danny obviously had opportunities in the Cup Series, but right now he's learning from an actual NASCAR champion how to, you know, better make, you know, strategy calls that are going to help out late race. And right now, if you're looking at Cup Series, strategy calls are going to be important. I mean, Austin Dillon would think so.
Well, and another thing that, at least in the truck series, as I understand, with the 51 truck, the one that Busch sometimes drives, that I mean, it's a full-time truck. I mean, last year it won their owners championship, but the thing is, to get funding for it, like, it helps to have Busch in the car for certain races. I mean, trying to think who all was there in that truck last year.
Well,
I mean,
we had the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Biffle in that car winning at Texas last year. And without Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle does not get that opportunity. So, Greg Biffle fans, you got to be thanking our boy Kyle Busch for that one. You know, you had Brandon Jones, my guy, in there last year. He won at Pocono this year in that car. We've seen a lot of guys getting opportunities there in that 51. I know, I think Lassard was in there a couple times last year. Excuse me. Chandler Smith, that's the driver I was thinking of. Chandler Smith got opportunities in that truck too. So, yeah, I don't mind it. If it gets guys like Chandler Smith, Christian Eckes, Rafael Lassard opportunities, take it, man. It's awesome seeing those guys get the chances.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, and then during the playoffs, like during I guess you could say the championship run, I know, I believe Herbst and Eckes were the two main. Jones also was in it. Yeah, Herbst,
Yeah.
Eckes, and Jones were all in the truck. Now,
Yeah.
switching gears over to IndyCar, they've had
Okay.
2 doubleheaders this year due to the coronavirus pandemic, canceling some of their races at Road America and Iowa. Do you think it would be beneficial to the series to have more doubleheaders?
Yeah. I've enjoyed the double headers. I think that maybe they could be set up a little bit differently, like watching Simon Pagenaud have to march his way back from 23rd every single night at Iowa because he didn't set off the time in qualifying was a little disheartening. But I mean, again, I did enjoy the IndyCar races. I enjoyed the double headers. You know, they already do them with Detroit every year, and I want to say Toronto has a double header.
Used to it, not
used to.
hasn't since 2014, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014.
Okay, but either way, definitely I enjoy seeing the double headers. IndyCar does a great job with them. That's why NASCAR wanted. I believe that's why NASCAR wanted to try and work its way in doing some double headers this year at Pocono and I guess Dover. But you know, we're definitely at the point where this is definitely necessary, I think, for IndyCar, just because of TV, you know, schedule wise, you don't want to clump all these races together, give these guys some chances to breathe. You know, I love it. I love double headers. It's more racing in a weekend, you know, and definitely we had a lot to talk about in Iowa this year. I mean, Colton Herta got airborne with VK. You know, I think Newgarden had the car to beat on Friday and still lost the race on strategy, and Pagenaud and Dixon were just holding on for dear life. And, you know, you get an opportunity for a driver like Oliver Askew, who, you know, Florida native, really good kid, and he's finished 3rd and 6th respectively. First career podium, and I'm definitely not the last for that kid. He is something special, and also for his teammate Pato O'Ward too. I mean, a fantastic drive out of those guys, and that's that extra experience that they're looking. So they're not getting practice, they're barely getting any qualifying time. They, you know, a double header gives them an opportunity for next year to not see the track a second time for free, essentially. And Iowa's a great track for someone to get more accustomed to, because I mean, I'm sure that IndyCar is trying to work in Richmond back into the schedule, and they're trying to figure out what to do with the road courses. And Road America is probably my favorite road course in America. So, I mean, in my opinion, they get track time on that. That's awesome. If you can race there, you can race anywhere. So, you know, definitely want more opportunities for double headers in the future. But obviously with coronavirus, it's necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly the double headers worked out because, I mean, with no major issue, I would say. IndyCar's already, like you said, done in the past at least recently, relatively recently at Detroit, Toronto, and they used to also have it at Houston too.
That's right, Houston.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, they were only in Houston 2 years. Yeah, I mean, like I think it goes over well with fans to basically see 2 races, and I mean, you can only choose to see one, like only buy tickets to one if you want. Also, I mean, it's not like, oh, you can only see it if you buy 2, but you can only see 2 races, or at least pay for 2 races if you're only going to see one. And I mean, I think for the most part, the drivers seem to handle it well. I mean, several said it was challenging, certainly, but But I mean, I guess that, kind of comes with the job.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I think IndyCar is probably the most challenging thing in the world. Well, second most challenging. We'll go top three, Mount Rushmore, most challenging cars in the world drive, because then I thought about F1 World Rally. But those things don't have power steering, and I know that the bumps on some of these tracks, especially the street courses, are absolutely brutal. So definitely doing double headers at street courses seems kind of like torture. But I mean, these guys are tough. They're tough cookies, and it definitely makes for more intriguing racing. So, but what I was saying with how they did the starting lineup, I would like to see them do a NASCAR inverse. I think would probably be a little bit better, just because obviously the cream always rises to the top. So why not make them work for it? I felt like Joseph Newgarden didn't have to work too hard for his money on Saturday. He was kind of just riding.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't think the qualifying setup for Iowa, especially the second race, was a bad idea. I mean, just you get your 2 laps that you normally get for IndyCar Oval. Just first one counts for first race, second one counts for race 2.
Yeah, that was
just I mean, maybe for NASCAR. I mean, not that I got that big an issue with how they've been handling it, like breaking it down into groups of owners' points and then drawing randomly from there.
Yeah.
My only thing, maybe I can agree with somebody saying that, like, just lining them up straight on owners' points, you're just going to see basically the same people staying at the front end.
Yeah.
So I don't have. I mean, I guess realistically, don't have a big issue really anyway. How they do the qualifying. I mean, if in NASCAR they just line them up based on the results of the previous race, even if it was at a completely different type of track, I wouldn't honestly have an issue with that.
Yeah. I've seen people say for NASCAR that they should be looking into trying to do fastest laps from the race before and line them up based on that. Like if you ran like the fastest lap at, where were we? Texas, you line up on the pole at Kansas, and so on and so forth. I think that's not a bad idea because it's still going to get you the best cars at the top, the fastest guys. And it shouldn't really change race strategy that much unless you're really going to just pit with like 5 to go to try and get fastest lap. I don't really think that's, it's not really F1 out there. So,
I mean, I wouldn't. If that's how they would determine the lineup, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if somebody who would be towards the rear of the field already or was
someone with a win already who doesn't really care about points.
Yeah, or even just like you sometimes see teams like really just go all out in qualifying, like kind of like the race at Kansas last year, where the front row was Daniel Hemrick and Michael McDowell, I believe,
absolutely
were the front row.
Absolutely legendary front row.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Hemrick. Nothing. I was thinking out loud about Daniel Hemrick. We always rip him on my podcast. I feel terrible about it.
I mean, I guess my view on Hemrick is, and I think you've seen this year driving for Junior Motorsports, but also last year when he was with Richard Childress Racing, that he's about the type of driver who he'll get basically what you should out of the type of car he has. I mean, he drives, like I said, in the secondary series this year. He is able to consistently run in the top 5, top 10, and is challenged for wins in a car that should be able to do that. Last year in the Cup Series, he was with a team that wasn't exactly at their peak. I mean, that struggled to even make the top 10, and also Chevrolet wasn't setting the world on fire last year either. So about where he, especially as a rookie, about where he usually finished was in the lower 20s.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely also been bit by bad luck. I think that's just the 8 car in general, though. So, I mean, like the Xfinity 8 is the 60 car from 2 years ago. So, I mean, it's just always getting into wrecks, always finding bad luck, wrong place, wrong time with two very talented drivers in Hemrick and Jeb Burton. Wow, I almost said Jeb Bush. And I'm sure Junior, when he comes in there, definitely loves the car and just feels a little, out of place. I don't know. It's just a snake-bitten car. But moving along.
Yeah. At this time, the two Arrow McLaren Racing SP drivers, Patricio O'Ward and Oliver Askew, have a combined 7 top 10s in 6 races in IndyCar, and O'Ward is 4th in points. What were your predictions for the team going into the year, and how do they compare to how they have actually done?
Well, for starters, I didn't think that Arrow McLaren was going to be this good. I don't know if they were going to be, setting the world on fire like they are, but they definitely. I didn't think it was going to be Pato and Patricio in 4th place right now. That's preposterous. I knew Oliver Askew was special. So my parents are good friends with, I think his manager when he was in Indy Lights. So I knew about Askew last year, and I was watching his progress. And when I saw him win it, at Indianapolis last year, I was more than impressed with this kid. I knew there was talent coming out the wazoo, and I knew right away from the start if he was getting into a good car, he'd be able to do something special. Now, obviously, last year you had James Hinchcliffe in the car, and Hinch has had an up-and-down career. In my opinion, I think that Hinch is a little overrated, but that's just me. Arrow McLaren has definitely improved to a top-tier team, and I'm more than impressed. I would love to see this consistency stay the whole season. I said that Pato is going to win a race. Patricio O'Ward is going to win a race at some point this year. It's the way that he ran at Road America impressed me so much. Like, he was holding on for dear life with a car that had no business leading for as long as it did. And obviously, Felix had the better car. Ganassi is a world ender with how good their cars are. But I feel like for sure, Arrow McLaren has been the surprise of the season. I think that another surprise has been how poor Andretti has done this season. I think that where we see the improvements from Arrow McLaren is where we see the drop off from Andretti racing. So, when one rises to the top, someone's got to fall down. So we'll see what happens though. Rossi's gotten back on the right direction of things. So hopefully, we see something with him, especially coming up to his favorite race. So we'll see. I definitely would circle Oliver Askew though as a driver to watch at the Indy 500. He might be in the top 5, finding himself in there. And I know that there were rumors of Alonso was going to be qualifying with them at the Indy 500. Is that still going to happen?
As far as I know, he's still driving for them at the 500. I mean,
yeah. So
unless like travel restrictions prevent that, I guess, which remains to be seen. But as far as I know, he's still planning on doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If Alonso ends up racing at the Indy 500 with this team that obviously is already showing out, it wouldn't be surprising to me to see him make the field this year and be a threat at the 500. I mean, he put in an absolute wonderful performance years ago when he made the 500. It was what everyone could talk about. So I would keep an eye out for them. Arrow McLaren has definitely shown that they are doing something special this season in IndyCar. And, even the lows are teaching moments, like the Indy GP. They're teaching moments for the team to get better. So we'll be keeping an eye out for them for sure.
I mean, my thought of the team going into the year was I wasn't exactly expecting a whole lot, seeing that both halves of the team that merged together for this year weren't that impressive last year. I mean, McLaren outright failed to qualify at Indianapolis with Fernando Alonso. And then between Schmidt-Peterson's 2 cars, they had certainly some good runs, but when you consider the amount of money that Arrow was putting into the team, they, I think, could have done better. And then this year, they run 2 cars, one for a pure rookie and the other for somebody else who only ran a partial season last year. And I thought it might be a case of they could show flashes of potential, but not be at the level that they are now, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a surprise. I think that, there's multiple opportunities for both these drivers to get wins this year. And that's saying a lot. Obviously a lot of pieces have to fall into place. Pit strategy is a huge one for them. I think another one is Ganassi not being at the top of their game one weekend. That's definitely going to help them a lot, because obviously Dixon and Rosenquist are two of the best drivers this year. And then you got to look at Newgarden and Pagenaud right there as well. So, there's a lot of things that can fall in line, but when you're basically driving the third best car on a given weekend, you put yourself in an opportunity to win that race. So.
I would say so that you got to take the opportunities when you see them, and whether they can, and I think that they can maintain their form, but certainly there's also the fact that they're going to be tracks, which, Iowa is a track that neither other drivers have competed at in an IndyCar. But just, I guess, remains to be seen, like, for example, how they'll do on other super speedway type races. Neither of them were the biggest factors at Texas. I know Askew did, I believe, finish 9th when everything was all said and done, but wasn't exactly neither were exactly the quickest. And I realized it was their first race on what's one of the more high speed, challenging tracks in the circuit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Anthony, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to participate in this interview.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Welcome. As I said, he is the host of Left Turns and Loud Noises, which is available for download on iTunes and Spotify.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter at LTLN Podcast, and follow me at LTLN_Anthony. I am the world's worst tweeter, so I bring interest and flair into Sunday afternoons watching the races, and Saturday afternoons with IndyCar and NASCAR and whatever else is on. I watch it all. So.
As I said, thanks for coming on, and good luck in life.
Appreciate it, bud. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am proud to announce that I have established an official store on Teespring. There, you can find a wide variety of official merchandise related to the Ryan Holman Network, all of which was personally designed by me, Ryan Holman. To find the official Ryan Holman store, please go to teespring.com/stores/the-official-Ryan-Holman-store. Thank you.